we go.
Good afternoon, third graders. Today I'm going to introduce you to some different techniques for creating flowers and different strategies for attaching them to clay objects so that you can create a sculpture to call your own. The first strategy that I'll show you will build off of our knowledge of rolling coils from last year. So you'll take a lump of clay and roll it between your hands until it looks like it's about the thickness of a hot dog or maybe a sausage. Trying your best to keep the coil an even thickness as you roll it. And as it becomes longer than your hands, you'll go ahead and set it on the table and complete your coil by rolling it on the placemat. When you roll your coil, you're attempting to roll the coil from your fingertip to the palm of your hand. So you'll take it back and forth, fingertip to palm. If your placemat starts to wiggle a lot on you, it is okay to ask a neighbor in the classroom to help hold the mat while you roll out your coil. If any part of your coil starts to get flattened, you can give it a gentle squeeze and then resume rolling to the thickness that you want. Because I'm going to be rolling this coil back onto itself, I'm choosing to roll it a little bit thinner. I'm aiming to get this coil to the thickness of maybe a Crayola crayon or a Crayola marker, or somewhere in between that zone. If my coil breaks, no problem. I can also cut it if I feel like it's gotten too long. So to make this kind of flower, I'm now going to use my pincher fingers, so my thumb and my index finger, and all along the top of this coil, I'm just going to pinch the clay so that it's a little bit thinner on the top only. When I start to roll this, it will begin to look like the petals on a flower. My next step will be to spiral this coil onto itself. So I'm going to gently roll it by wrapping it around itself. And this is where I can control the size of my flower. I might choose to have a smaller flower, or if I keep rolling it onto itself, my flower will get larger and larger. I'm going to make mine a medium size and cut away clay that I don't need. Rub the last edge onto itself. And to make sure that my coil does not unravel, I'll flip it over, use a plastic knife, and gently scrape and smooth the back side of this coil so that I know it stays connected. I can then choose to attach this flower to another object. Perhaps I create a pinch pot, or I flatten a slab with my hand and then carve a shape into it, like a heart, a circle, or a square, and then attach this flower to the base. Another strategy for creating flowers is to work with slabs. So to do this, I'll take some clay and I'll break it into pieces of clay that are about the same size. Because I'm making a flower and each ball will become a flower petal, they don't need to be perfect or exactly the same. In real life, no flower has all the petals exactly alike. So I'll give each one of these a quick roll, checking to make sure that they're about the same size. If it helps, you can sort of just count to the number 10 in your head. That should be good enough for your clay ball. It's okay if it's lumpy and bumpy. And then I'm going to use the palm of my hand to press these flat. I'm trying to get a cookie thickness. So if I push too hard, it's going to be very, very thin and it may snap or break in half. So aim for the thickness of a cookie. These coils, I'm sorry, not coils, but these round slabs can then be overlapped and smashed down. Think of it like you're creating a caterpillar. And I can add more of these. Then I'm going to roll them together to begin a flower. So I start by smushing and rolling, doing a little bit of rubbing to make sure that my clay stays stuck together. And so my flower will get larger the more flattened circles I decide to roll up. So you can see here the top looks like a rose. To make sure that this doesn't fall apart on myself, I want to be able to flatten the bottom by gently cupping my flower and then pressing down to flatten here. And again, I'll use my plastic knife to smooth the clay back together to make sure that all sections stay connected. And I can rub with my finger or the knife to return the clay to a nice smooth texture. Because this flower is really thick, it's at a greater risk for exploding in the kiln because it doesn't air dry evenly. So myself or my student teacher may come to your clay project and help carve a small hole in the bottom to help the clay air dry on the bottom part where it's the thickest. It's not visible from the top of your clay flower. During class, you could create multiple flowers and you can play around with different sizes by rolling small, medium, or large spheres to create different size flowers. And then I can choose to flatten each of these sizes to get different combinations for my clay artwork. One other option will be to use these flattened circles to create a clay bowl. So you can see that the outside flower petals are created with flattened circles. And then they're laid inside a plastic bowl to use as a mold to help the clay harden in that shape. To do this bowl though, I need to do one extra step, which is to scratch and slip my clay together so that it stays connected. So once again, I'll break off my clay into pieces that are about the same size. Roll them into balls, flatten them with my hands. I'm not sure how many pieces I'll need for the clay bowl, so I can always create more if I need them. And then go through, flatten each of those. And then I'll begin by placing them in the bowl. I want part of the flower petal on the bottom of the bowl and part of it hugging the side wall of the bowl. Next flower petal will overlap, but I need to scratch or score and slip it to help make sure that it stays connected. So I'll scratch some lines into that clay flower petal, and then I'll scratch some lines into the clay flower petal that I intend to attach. I'm going to use this stuff. It's called Slip. It's clay with a lot of water, so it's like the consistency of a milkshake, and it works like a glue. I just rub some of that into place, press my clay flower petal in, and give it a gentle smush down. Next flower petal, repeat. Carve some score lines onto both flower petals. Get some slip. Overlap it and stick it down, working my way around the bowl to complete the flower. Today, I'd like you to use your imagination and think about different ways that you can combine adding flowers or floral ideas to your artwork using the coil, pinching the top, or rolling balls and flattening the clay. And that can be combined with other clay techniques that you already know how to do. For example, a pinch pot. Thanks for watching.